After a fight, my wife called the cops and falsely accused me of threatening her to get me removed from my house. I calmly told the officers, "Please, come in. I have something you need to see." I showed them the security footage with audio, proving she was the one screaming. Filing a false report is a serious crime. When her dad called me from the station, demanding I be a man and drop the charges. You know, the worst feeling isn't the argument itself. It's the moment you realize your spouse is studying your weaknesses for future litigation. I'm Owen, 42. I deal in high-end video and audio systems here in Seattle. My world is about verifiable evidence, about data that doesn't lie. My marriage to Diana, she's 40, a strong-willed executive, had devolved into a series of strategic maneuvers. She saw my calm as weakness. She saw the house, which I owned, as leverage. The problem was Diana's temper. When she lost an argument, she didn't just walk away. She used threats. She'd learned from a messy divorce case at her firm that the easiest way to gain control of a house during a breakup is to get the husband removed by the police. She started throwing around veiled comments. "You need to be careful with your words, Owen." Threats are taken very seriously now. I recognized the script immediately. It was the precursor to a domestic violence accusation designed purely to get a temporary restraining order and lock me out of my own property. I didn't argue with her. I just went to my workshop and got to work, applying my own expertise to the problem. I installed a new high-resolution security system in the main living areas. These weren't cheap cameras. They were professional-grade units that captured wide-angle video and crystal-clear audio. I ensured the system had an off-site, cloud-based backup that was impossible for her to access or tamper with. I called it my ethical alibi. This was my non-negotiable insurance policy against her manipulation. The actual fight started over something ridiculous. Her insisting I liquidate my retirement account for a new luxury car. I refused. That's when she went into full attack mode. She began screaming, trashing the kitchen, and smashing a few plates, all while I stood there, stone-cold silent, watching the clock. Then she pulled out the final move. She ran to the bedroom, locked the door, and I heard her dialing. Yes, my husband is threatening me. He's yelling, and I'm afraid for my safety. You need to send officers immediately to remove him. I listened to her entire fabricated performance. The tears were fake. The panic was real, but only because she was committing a felony. I walked to the front door and unlocked the security deadbolt. I wanted the officers to have immediate, safe entry. I disabled the motion lights in the hallway, so the camera footage would be clean and uninterrupted. I heard the sirens approaching, loud and urgent. I stood there waiting for the Seattle Police Department to arrive, holding the one piece of evidence that could save me from false charges and ruin her life forever. I knew they were coming to arrest me, but I was about to turn their entire investigation into the biggest mistake of her life. The sheer volume of the siren was deafening. It stopped right outside the house, and I knew the moment of truth had arrived. I stood by the front door, hands visible, maintaining the quiet control that Diana hated. Diana rushed out of the bedroom, her face streaked with tears she had conveniently added after calling 911. She looked frantic, ready to play the victim role of a lifetime. "They're here. They're here," she whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and triumph. "Tell them you'll leave. Tell them you threatened me." She didn't know that my microphone had caught every single word of her desperate plea to the police operator. The police banged hard on the door. "Seattle PD! We have a domestic disturbance!" Open the door, sir. I looked at Diana, who was trembling, ready to throw herself into the arms of the nearest officer. You want me to tell them I threatened you? I asked, my voice calm, almost conversational. Yes. Just tell them you yelled. They'll make you leave. It's the only way to get you out of this house, she hissed, desperate. I smiled, a cold, surgical smile. No, Diana. I won't lie for you. I pulled the door open, revealing the 2 officers and the patrol car lights strobing across the walls of my living room. The lead officer, a tall, serious woman, stepped in immediately, surveying the scene. The overturned furniture, the shattered plates in the kitchen, and Diana's tear-streaked face. We received a call regarding a domestic threat, the officer stated, addressing Diana. Ma'am, are you safe? Did Mr. Thorne threaten physical harm? Diana immediately launched into her performance. Yes, officer! He was screaming. He said he was going to destroy everything. I'm terrified. Please, you have to remove him. She pointed at me, the innocent victim pointing at the predator. I'm sorry, officers. I cut in, my voice calm, respectful, completely contrasting her hysteria. There has been a serious miscommunication. I walked to the living room wall, where a small, almost invisible panel was located. My name is Owen Thorne. I am a video systems specialist, and I own this house. I then executed the final, devastating reveal. Officers, before you proceed, I believe the truth is entirely contained within the last 20 minutes of audio and video. I ask you to view the security footage which captures the entire event, including the phone call to 911. Diana watched, her performance freezing midway, horror washing over her face as she realized my cameras had been running the entire time. The officer looked at me intrigued. You have video of the incident, Mr. Thorne? I have the video and I have the audio, officer, I confirmed. I will be pressing charges for filing a false police report. I calmly pulled the security access tablet from its charging dock. The tables had just completely turned. I have the video and I have the audio, officer. That's all it took. I handed the tablet to the lead officer, Officer Jensen, and watched her serious, professional face become utterly fascinated. Diana screamed, "Don't touch that! That's illegal. He's a stalker." The second officer, who was holding his hand near his weapon, stepped in front of Diana. Ma'am, please step back. Let the officer review the evidence. I stood calmly, while Officer Jensen pressed play. The room was instantly filled with the sound of our fight, but it was different. You heard Diana's voice escalate, demanding I liquidate my retirement account. Then, the moment of truth. You heard her run to the bedroom, and you heard her dialing. The audio was horrifyingly clear. Yes, my husband is threatening me. He's yelling, and I'm afraid for my safety. You need to send officers immediately to remove him. The camera footage, meanwhile, showed me standing utterly still in the living room, hands at my sides, never raising my voice, exactly as she was fabricating the threat. The police didn't see a domestic threat. They saw premeditated criminal fraud. Officer Jensen paused the video. She looked from the tablet, to me, to Diana, who was now trembling with raw, undeniable terror. Ma'am. Officer Jensen's voice was low, dangerous. You are clearly committing the offense of filing a false police report and misuse of emergency services. Diana tried the final lie. He edited that. He's a video specialist. He fabricated the audio. We'll verify the chain of custody with the cloud provider, ma'am, Officer Jensen said, pulling out her handcuffs. But your confession to the operator, which we just heard, is already on file with the city. Diana's entire body went slack. The fight was gone. The performance had ended in total failure. You have the right to remain silent, Officer Jensen stated, clicking the cold steel around Diana's wrists. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I looked at the living room, the smashed plates, and the 2 police officers arresting my wife. It wasn't the happy ending I ever envisioned, but it was the cleanest break I could have asked for. Before they let her out, Diana looked at me, not with rage, but with a pure, shattered look of defeat. You knew, she whispered. You knew the camera was running. I knew, I confirmed. And I recorded it for the same reason you called 911. Leverage. They led her out to the patrol car. I didn't follow. I was left standing in the living room, holding the security tablet, knowing I had just turned a domestic dispute into a serious criminal case. The officers filed the report and collected the smashed plates as evidence of the physical confrontation she tried to blame on me. I immediately called my lawyer, not for divorce papers, but to press charges for the false report and to secure a full, ironclad restraining order. The threat of being locked out of my house was gone. The fear was gone. I was left with the clean, surgical satisfaction of defending my freedom with the one thing Diana couldn't lie about: the truth. The worst call you can ever get isn't from the police. It's from your father-in-law, demanding to know why his daughter is in a jail cell. My phone rang hours after the police left. The caller ID showed Robert Hayes, Diana's father. I knew the moment I answered, the argument wouldn't be about the law, it would be about honor and obligation. I took a deep breath and answered. Hello, Robert? His voice wasn't screaming. It was low, devastatingly angry, and completely controlled. Owen, what the hell is going on? We had to bail Diana out. The charge is filing a false report. Are you pressing charges? Diana filed a false report to have me removed from my own house, Robert. She committed a crime, and yes, I'm cooperating fully with the prosecution. You have to drop it, he commanded. Be a man. This is family. You don't send your wife to jail over a fight. This wasn't a fight, Robert. This was premeditated abuse of the legal system. She smashed plates, and then she lied to the police to secure my arrest. I have the video, and I have the audio that proves she was the one screaming. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. I knew he was processing the full weight of the truth I had already prepared. She said you edited the footage, Robert finally said. She says you set her up because you're a video specialist. I gave the police direct access to the unedited, time-stamped cloud data, Robert. It proves I was silent, and she was fabricating the threat. Ask her lawyer. He switched tactics instantly, appealing to my sympathy. She's scared, Owen. She's embarrassed. She just wants to come home. If you drop the charges, we'll cover the cost of the damages. We'll sign any paper you want. I don't need your money, Robert. I need accountability. Filing a false police report is a serious crime that could ruin my life and career. I won't ignore a felony committed against me just to maintain your family's facade. She's your wife. She's my estranged wife who committed fraud to steal my house. I suggest you focus on hiring a good criminal defense attorney for her, because the state of Washington is taking this very seriously. I then delivered the final, non-negotiable blow. Tell Diana this. The moment she walked into that police station, she lost all rights to my time, my house, and my forgiveness. The divorce papers are being served tomorrow morning. He hung up, defeated. I immediately called my own lawyer. The bait has been taken, I confirmed. Proceed with the divorce filing and the permanent restraining order. I spent the rest of the evening cleaning the kitchen. The shattered porcelain, the spilled wine. It was all evidence of the chaos she tried to impose. I realized I wasn't just filing for divorce. I was filing for moral clarity. And the price of that clarity was the total destruction of my relationship with her entire family. The real panic didn't hit Diana until the prosecutor showed her the time-stamped footage in the courthouse. Look, filing a false report is one thing. Watching your own lie play out in crystal-clear high definition is another. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Vivian, handled the pre-trial hearing with surgical precision. She knew the goal wasn't just divorce. It was to secure a felony conviction for misusing emergency services. I didn't have to say a word. I just sat there, the calmest man in the room, while the prosecution presented my security footage. The monitor in the courtroom flared to life. You could hear every syllable. First, the audio of the argument. I was quiet, refusing to raise my voice. Diana was screaming about the luxury car I refused to buy. Then, the critical moment. Diana running into the bedroom. You hear her dialing 911, her voice instantly switching to a terrified whisper. The video showed me, hands at my sides, doing nothing as she fabricated the entire emergency. The prosecutor then played the audio from the moment the police arrived, juxtaposed with the video. Prosecutor. The defendant is heard fabricating a violent threat, while the plaintiff is demonstrably stationary and calm. Diana's lawyer, some poor guy the family hired last minute, tried to argue it was marital distress and a cry for help. The judge looked utterly unmoved. A cry for help that resulted in the dispatch of armed officers, counsel. The physical evidence was damning, but the social evidence was worse. I hadn't just filed the footage with the court. I had sent a clean copy of the incident report, signed by the police officers, to the ethics board of Diana's pharmaceutical sales company. I didn't say, she's a criminal. I just asked if her actions compromised the company's code of conduct. The professional fallout was immediate. She was put on administrative leave pending the results of the criminal investigation. Her clients were transferred. Her reputation, which relied entirely on being seen as a polished, trustworthy executive, was systematically destroyed by her own reckless behavior. The climax of the hearing was short and brutal. The judge ruled against her on the civil side and bound her over for felony criminal prosecution for the false report. When they led her out, she looked at me with pure, distilled hatred, but the fight was gone. She knew the camera had won. I walked out of the courtroom not as a divorced man, but as a man who had successfully defended his freedom and sanity against a criminal attack. The phone rang the second I stepped into the courthouse hallway. It wasn't my lawyer calling. It was Robert, Diana's father. I knew the criminal verdict had already been delivered. His voice was a low, devastating rumble, the sound of an older man facing the absolute ruin of his daughter's life. "Owen," he said, skipping the pleasantries. "They charged her. Felony. What the hell did you show them?" "The truth, Robert," I replied, my voice carrying the exhaustion of the last 2 weeks. I showed them the video of Diana staging the attack and then calling 911. He immediately went to the defense of the family name. "You have to drop it. This will ruin her career. You can't put your wife in prison over a single argument." "She's not my wife, Robert. She's a felon who tried to fabricate a domestic violence charge to steal my house. And filing a false report is a crime against the state, not against me. I can't drop the charges even if I wanted to." I knew that was a slight lie. I could influence the prosecutor. But he didn't need to know that. He needed to know that the system was now in charge. Then he switched to the ultimate patriarchal ultimatum. "Be a man, Owen. Be a gentleman. You drop this and we will sign over the house to you. No claim, no alimony. Just let her walk away clean." I paused, letting the absurdity of his offer hang in the air. He was asking me to compromise my moral integrity and risk a lifetime of legal liability to save Diana's reputation. "Robert," I said, "you're offering me a house I already own in exchange for dropping felony charges for a crime committed against the state." The answer is no. I then delivered the final, non-negotiable blow. "Your daughter crossed a line that affects everyone who is ever falsely accused. I cannot forgive that. I will not shield her from consequences." He hung up, defeated. I immediately called my lawyer. "The bait has been taken. Proceed with the final filing. I want the divorce finalized as quickly and cleanly as possible." The legal system moved swiftly. Within 2 weeks, the divorce was finalized. Diana was forced to accept minimal assets and faced a serious, pending criminal trial. I sold the house. It was tainted by the memory of her screaming and the flash of the patrol car lights. I took the money and bought a small cabin far outside the city. The criminal justice system delivered the final verdict. Diana was found guilty of filing a false police report and was sentenced to probation, community service, and massive fines to repay the city for the cost of the emergency dispatch. She lost her career, her house, and her freedom, all because she underestimated the power of a quiet man with a strategically placed camera. The threat of being locked out of my house was gone forever. The price of that peace was worth every cent. The threat was gone, man. That was the only thing that mattered. The final legal verdict wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a permanent, visible line drawn between my quiet sanity and her manufactured chaos. Diana lost the criminal trial. She was sentenced to probation, massive fines, and a relentless schedule of community service. Her career in pharmaceutical sales? Incinerated. No ethics board tolerates a convicted felon who misuses emergency services. Her professional reputation became radioactive. I sold the house immediately. That beautiful, comfortable home was tainted. Every room echoed with the sound of her lies and the memory of the police lights strobing through the window. I didn't care about the profit. I cared about the severance. I bought a small cabin in the wilderness outside Seattle. It's the kind of place where the loudest sound is the wind, and the only technology I monitor is the weather forecast. I threw myself back into my work. Funny thing is, the emotional clarity made me a better engineer. I wasn't distracted by drama. I was focused purely on data. Diana tried one final desperate move months later. She sent a friend to text me, claiming she was going through deep therapy and needed one last talk for closure. I sent a copy of the criminal judgment back to the friend with a note. Her closure started the day she called 911. "My talking is done. I never regretted cooperating with the police. I regretted waiting so long to realize that her manipulation was a direct threat to my physical safety." People ask, "Wasn't that cruel, Owen? Sending your wife to jail?" And I tell them, she chose the system. I didn't send her to jail. Her choice to commit a felony did. I just provided the evidence. That distinction is everything. It wasn't revenge. It was self-defense executed with technical precision. My life is quiet now. I spend my weekends hiking, watching the fog roll in over the mountains. I realized I didn't lose my dignity in that marriage. I just paid a very high price for the documentation to prove I never threatened anyone. I'm free of the chaos. And that quiet, absolute freedom is the best revenge a man could ever ask for. Closing reflection. She thought she could weaponize the system to steal my freedom. I just proved that data, the cold, hard truth, is the ultimate defense against lies.